Which of the following describes the function of the ribosome? A. Protein synthesis. B. Energy production. C. Cell movement. D. Storage of molecules. A. Protein synthesis. Because muscle cells requires large amounts of energy to function correctly, which organelles would be prevalent in those type of cells? A. Ribosomes. B. Mitochondria. C. Cytoskeleton. D. Cell membrane. B. Mitochondria. Which of the following organelles is responsible for storing genetic information? A. Nucleus. B. Ribosomes. C. Cell membrane. D. Lysosomes. A. Nucleus. Which of the following structures changes the volume of the lungs? A. Alveoli. B. Heart. C. Trachea. D. Diaphragm. D. Diaphragm. Which of the following statement best explains how the structure of alveoli relates to its function? B. The walls the alveoli are thin to increase rate of diffusion. Which of the following statement best describes the primary function of the respiratory system? C. It exchanges gases between the blood and the air in an environment. Which of the following conditions causes a narrowing of airways in the respiratory system? A. Influenza. B. Bronchitis. C. Asthma. D. Pneumonia. C. Asthma. Which of the following lists the primary parts of the heart? A. Blood cells. B. Muscle tissue split into 2 chambers. C. Muscle tissue split into 4 chambers. D. 4 ventricles. C. Muscle tissue split into 4 chambers. Which of the following blood component is responsible for transporting oxygen? A. Red blood cells. B. Plasma. C. Dissolved gases. D. leukocytes. A. Red blood cells. Which of the following chambers pumps blood towards the lungs? A. Left atrium. B. Right atrium. C. Left ventricle. D. Right ventricle. D. Right ventricle. Which of the following statements best describes the function of veins? A. Veins carry deoxygenated blood. B. Veins carry oxygenated blood. C. Veins carry blood back to the heart. D. Veins carry blood away from the heart. C. Veins carry blood back to the heart. In which of the following organs does digestion begin? A. Mouth. B. Stomach. C. Small intestine. D. Pancreas. A. Mouth. In which of the following organs does breakdown of protein begins? A. Mouth. B. Stomach. C. Small intestine. D. Pancreas. D. Pancreas. Which of the following structures absorbs nutrients in the small intestine? A. Mucus. B. Microvilli. C. Enzymes. D. Hormones. B. Microvilli. Which of the following statements best describes peristalsis? A. Muscle contractions that move food through the digestive tract. Which of the following actions is controlled by voluntary nerve signals? A. Walking. B. Digestion. C. Heart beating. D. Breathing. A. Walking. C. It allows for the passing of signals between neurons and muscles. Which of the following types of muscle cell are often voluntary? A. Skeletal. B. Smooth. C. Cardiac. D. Nervous. A. Skeletal. Which of the following types of nerves send message to the brain? A. Skeletal. B. Smooth. C. Sensory. D. Motor. C. Sensory. Which of the following organs produce female gametes? A. Ovary. B. Testes. C. Prostate. D. Uterus. A. Ovary. Which is the location where fertilization typically takes place? A. Vagina. B. Penis. C. Vas deferens. D. Fallopian tubes. D. Fallopian tubes. Which of the following best describes one function of estrogen? A. Production of sperm cells. B. Maturation of eggs. C. Release of egg. D. Fertilization. B. Maturation of eggs. Which of the following results from the production of luteinizing hormone in males? A. Bone growth. B. Facial hair growth. C. Testosterone production. D. Sperm production. C. Testosterone production. Which of the following is the layer of skin that forms a protective, waterproof barrier? A. Dermis. B. pseudophorus. C. sebaceous. D. epidermis. D. Epidermis. Which of the following best describes the function of melanocytes? A. Secretion of substances like minerals and alcohol. B. Production of melanin. C. Absorption of vitamin D. D. Sensing the environment. B. Production of melanin. Which of the following layers of the skin contains hair follicles? A. Dermis. B. pseudophorus. C. sebaceous. D. Epidermis. A. Dermis. Which of the following layers of the skin contains a layer of dead cells? A. Dermis. B. Hypothalamus. C. pseudophorus. D. Epidermis. D. Epidermis. Which of the following best describes the kind of message sent in the endocrine system? B. Chemical signals that travel through the bloodstream. Which of the following structures secretes releasing hormones? A. Hypothalamus. B. Pituitary. C. Pancreas. D. Liver. A. Hypothalamus. Which of the following is a function of the pineal gland? A. Releasing growth hormone. B. Releasing melatonin. C. Releasing insulin and glucagon. D. Releasing luteinizing hormone. B. Releasing melatonin. Which of the following glands releases epinephrine during stress? A. Hypothalamus. B. Adrenal gland. C. Pancreas. D. Pituitary gland. B. Adrenal glands. Which of the following parts of the male genitourinary system also transport sperm? A. Ureter. B. Urethra. C. Uterus. D. Urinary bladder. B. Urethra. Which of the following waste products from digestion does the kidney remove? A. Nitrogen. B. Sodium chloride. C. Protein. D. Carbon. A. Nitrogen. Which of the following best describes the outcome if the kidneys stopped functioning? B. Blood would fill with waste and the human body would not be able to maintain homeostasis. Which of the following structures is the functional unit of the kidney? A. Renal capillaries. B. Glomerulus. C. Nephron. D. Cortex. C. Nephron. The nephron is a microscopic tubule system that filters and reabsorbs. Which of the following helps to prevent pathogens from invading the body? A. Histamines. B. Mucus. C. T cells. D. Macrophages. B. Mucus. A bacteria cell enters the body through a cut in the skin. Which of the following describes the immune response that would occur next? A. Cytotoxic T cells form. B. Histamines are released. C. Antigens are released. D. Helper T cells are activated. B. Histamines are released. Histamines are released to stimulate blood flow to the area of the cut, allowing white blood cells infiltrate the area. Which of the following types of cells produce antibodies? A. T cells. B. Plasma cells. C. Memory cells. D. Macrophages. B. Plasma cells. Which of the following best describes the purpose of a vaccine? A. To produce extra inflammatory responses such as the release of histamines. B. To practice passive immunity. C. To produce antibodies in case of future infection. D. To increase macrophage production. C. To produce antibodies in case of future infection. Vaccinations allow the body to recognize and produce antibodies to use in the case of future infection by that pathogen. Which of the following breaks down bone material? A. Osteoclasts. B. Osteoblasts. C. Canaliculi. D. Osteocytes. A. Osteoclasts, a large multinucleate bone cell which absorbs bone tissue during growth and healing. Which of the following is considered a short bone? A. Skull bone. B. Radius and ulna. C. Carpals and tarsals. D. Humerus and scapula. C. Carpals and tarsals. Which of the following best describes the purpose of hyaline cartilage in the skeletal system? A. It forms the matrix of a bone. B. It develops into osteocytes. C. It strengthens the entire skeletal system. D. It reduces friction. D. It reduces friction. The covering at the end of long bones where joints form needs hyaline cartilage to reduce the friction of movement. Which of the following best explains the cause of osteoporosis? C. Osteoclasts break down bone faster than osteoblasts deposit minerals. More bone is being broken down that is being built up, causing bones to weaken and become brittle. Osteoclasts break down bone faster than osteoblasts deposit minerals.